If you're running a manufacturing business on QuickBooks and a bunch of spreadsheets, you're not alone. Most of the manufacturers I talked to started exactly that way. QuickBooks is great in the early days. It's simple, it's familiar, and it does what you need. But there's a point where the wheels start to wobble. Things feel harder than they should. In this video, I want to walk you through the 5 clear signs that your manufacturing business has quietly outgrown QuickBooks and spreadsheets and it might be ready for a real ERP system. I'm not saying you need to rip everything out tomorrow. I just want you to be able to recognize some of the tools that got you here are not comfortably going to get you to the next stage of your business. Now, sign number one is you're living in constant expediting mode. Jobs are always getting bumped, materials are being rushed in. Every week, there's a new fire that throws the plan out the window. You might have a schedule, maybe in Excel or on a whiteboard, but it only matches reality for a few hours. And after that, things change and nobody has time to update the spreadsheet. But that usually means your planning, inventory, production data are not truly connected. QuickBooks and spreadsheets are not built to keep a live, accurate picture of what's happening on the shop floor. If your team spends most of their time reacting instead of executing the plan, is a strong sign you're outgrowing your current setup. Now, sign number two is sales is promising dates that production cannot hit. So a customer calls and says something like, "Can you hit this? Get me this by the 15th?" Sales looks at QuickBooks, maybe glances at a spreadsheet and takes a guess. They say yes because they want to keep the customer happy, but they're not looking at the real capacity. They're not looking at what's already on the schedule. They may not see what materials are already reserved for other jobs. So production gets stuck being the bad guy. They're always the ones that have to say, "We cannot actually ship this on the 15th." That hurts the relationship with the customer, creates tension between sales and operations. When sales and production are not working from the same version of the truth, broken promises are almost a guarantee. Now, the number three is you keep getting surprised by inventory. When you think you have 10 units of a critical component, and then when you go to pick, there are really only two. Um, or the opposite. You think you're out of something, and then you find a pallet in the wrong location. Your team spends way too much time walking the floor, visually checking the shelves and the racks, because nobody fully trusts what the system says. QuickBooks is an accounting tool. It's not a serious inventory and warehouse system. So when the inventory, purchasing, and production are all tracked in different places and reconciled at the end of the month, surprises are always going to show up. So if inventory is always feels always like a guess, you're probably outgrown a basic setup. Now, sign number four is that your month end is painfully slow. Instead of having a decent picture of a couple days after the month's end, you're pulling data from everywhere. Some numbers live in QuickBooks, some live in spreadsheets, some are in email threads, others pieces of paper. Your controller or bookkeeper turns into some type of a detective. They spend days trying to figure out what was built, what was shipped, what was invoiced, what it all cost. But by the time you see meaningful numbers, you're already halfway to the next month. At that point, you're steering the business while looking in the rearview mirror. That is because there's another clear sign you need one system that ties finance, inventory, production together from start instead of reconciling it at the end. Now, the fifth and final sign is everyone has their own secret spreadsheet. The production scheduler has one, the buyer has one, the shipping lead has one. None of them match, and none of them are fully visible to anyone else. If one of these people quits or their file gets corrupted, you lose a chunk of operating brain overnight. Spreadsheets are great tools, but I'm not against them at all, really. The problem is that when spreadsheets become the real system of record instead of a scratch pad or a temporary helper. When you're a factory and you run on personal files, it's a strong sign you've outgrown your current system. So, what do all these signs really mean? If you're seeing three or more of these signs in your business, it's not a sign you have failed. It's actually a sign that your business is growing, maybe a little too fast. You have more orders, more people, more complexity. The tools that worked when you were smaller simply cannot keep up with you now. That is usually the point where it makes sense to at least start exploring a real ERP system that brings in finance, inventory, production, scheduling all into one place. Now, in our world, in Alchemy 365, that often means Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. We are a Microsoft partner and we work exclusively with small and mid sized manufacturers. It's not magic. You still need decent processes, good data, but instead of 10 different spreadsheets and a lot of guessing, you can get one connected system where sales, operations, finance see the same numbers, inventory, production orders, and costs are all tied together, and you can look forward and plan instead of looking backwards and explaining what went wrong. The technology, though, is just the foundation. The real benefit is giving your team a shared, reliable, picture of the business so they can make better decisions every day. So some of these signs hit a little bit too close to home, and you're wondering whether it's really time to look at a real ERP. If three or more of these signs are sound familiar, it might get time to start the search.